LLOYD MASIKA is really a company of two names. There is LLOYD, there is MASIKA. People confuse me for the
both names.
For both names, but there is LLOYD and MASIKA. And John is still living here. John LLOYD is still living in Nairobi.
Yes.
When we started, we just simply wanted to do valuations only, yet specialized in urban valuations. These are properties in towns in Nairobi, houses, go downs, commercial buildings. And I had more worked in agriculture. So I used to work mainly in the farms, coffee farms, tea farms, horticulture farms, ranches. That was really my line of valuations.
So.
But we very quickly found out just simply going to lock ourselves somewhere and calling ourselves valuers, we will not really be monitoring what's happening in the market, because there are the book way of doing things and also monitoring what's happening out in the field. And so we started a company, or within ourselves started a department that was now doing agency. Maneno ya kukaa kwa nyumba ama kununua nyumba, I think that's personal. Lakini kwa maoni yangu, ningetaka tu ni waeleze ya kwamba zile nyumba na wale wananunua mara mingi wanunua na ile rent tu walikuwa wakilipa. In other words, if you stay in Buruburu and you are paying 30,000 shillings per month, you can use the same 30,000 shillings per month to be paying for the same house, and in 10, 12, 15 years, nyumba inakuwa yako. Na rent ile unalipa tu. The problem normally inakuwa ni deposit ile inahitajika. Na hiyo deposit ndio inakuwa tabu kidogo.
So mimi naweza penda utuambie sana hapa kwa wale watu wengi wanatuwatch, labda hawezi afford kununua apartments hizo za 15 million zenye zinauzwa 2 bedroom and stuff. Na mortgage na hiyo pressure ya kununua nyumba ama ya kukua na nyumba, hata before ni tujibu story ya mortgage, kuna one of our audience members anaitwa Sam anauliza conversion of rental properties. Ukiwa na rental properties na utaki kungoja pesa yako 15 years ndio upate hiyo profit, is there another way of conversion?
Yes. Wajua ukinunua nyumba na ukipewa loan for say 15 years.
Yes.
If somewhere along the line you are promoted and you get more money, you can pay the mortgage off.
Okay.
Na nyumba inakuwa yako. Mara mingi unaweza hata kuuza hiyo nyumba, inakupatia deposit kubwa ya kununua nyumba mahali pengine pazuri. Lakini ile ningetaka tu kusema ni kwamba the high values, ile mnasikia nyumba iko bei ya juu, si accommodation, ni mahali iko, yani the location itself.
Okay.
Unaweza ukapata nyumba kililishwa kwa tuseme flat 12 million shillings. The same flat you can get it possibly in Nairobi West for about 8 million shillings with the same accommodation. Kwa hivyo mara mingi mnanunua that prestige kind of a situation where unataka kuwa upande huu na si upande ule mwingine. Kwa maoni, nyumba ni ya kukaa, na mara mingi sioni faida ya kuacha familia yako Nairobi, bibi yako, watoto hapa Nairobi, mnakaa tuseme in an area that's not suitable, na unaenda unajenga nyumbani ambayo mnaitumia kwa wiki mbili wakati wa Christmas. Here you have got no house, yet this is where you are living, alafu unaenda nyumbani unajenga nyumba kubwa na inakaa tupu mwaka mzima. I think you need to consider the welfare of your own family and mostly where they stay. If you then get some spare funds, then you can always have something at home. But I think it's very important where you think you are going to spend most of the time, and especially with the children who are growing up and going to school, you need to cater for their housing needs.
Now with the rate of competition, kama sisi sasa yenye tuko nayo as the so-called young people, because we have to compete with corruption and other issues. Do we have a chance of making it like you?
You can, definitely. I personally, when I came to Nairobi, I used to stay in Parklands with my uncle in the
Parklands?
Yes, in the Servants Quarter. No. I haven't said where I was staying in Parklands. I was staying in a Servants Quarter with my uncle, one room. And when his wife comes, I go and borrow the room somewhere else, accommodation somewhere else.
Inaitwa exile.
Yeah. Oh. So,
Yes.
until a friend of mine invited me to a small room in Isli. And I joined the mom in Isli phase 1,
Yes.
where we had a tiny room where you could only push the bed inside, and actually we used to cook outside. That's where it started. And just to inform you, in that block, as you know, the Isli blocks, they are built around a courtyard with
Yes.
many rooms like this with the toilets at the back. That place that I stayed with my friend, having invited me, those people we found in all those rooms, those who are alive are still my friends today.
Okay.
They remained very close. It was from there now when I started working. I had a flat in Nairobi West. Then after 3 or 4 years, I saved enough money to put as a deposit to buy something else in South Sea. So there's nothing that will stop you from moving forward if you target that.
Sasa sisi
Are
hapo,
we together?
the challenge,
So
the
if you really
challenge-
want to buy a property, you can buy a property. But you are not going to buy it tomorrow. But you must start saving now with the aim of buying a property. Now, you raised up the question of construction.
Yes.
Obviously, if you get a plot and you build your own house, obviously you are cutting off what will be the contractor's profit in building the house for you.
Yes.
So it may look it's going to be cheap, but you must bear in mind that as you build, it will take time. And during all that time,
Even if you have all the money.
or even if you have put all the money, it will take you time, a year, maybe 2 years while you are constructing. During that time, you are still paying rent somewhere else. If you buy the property within, say, 2-3 months, you'll be able to move in there and start paying for the property, as opposed to spending 2 years building another property. So you need to consider that as you decide, do I build or do I buy a ready-built place?
Or
Those people who do development, the big developers, they have got a lot of economies of scale.
Yes.
You know, because they are building too many things. And sometimes they can build cheaper than how you can do it. On the issue that you raised of the
Off-plan.
of the off-plan,
yes.
let me tell you, I have always been very suspicious of off-plan. Many times, our people do not understand plans.
Okay.
When we sell properties, it is very important that before you can even start talking about something, you get the family to go. The wife understands her kitchen and maybe the living room. You actually see it. They don't understand it on the plan. So when you buy an off-plan, to some extent, you may find the whole family really don't know what is going to be the end product. Again, things change during the construction. The time you start the construction to the time you complete that construction. You find the things are changing economically and also politically and so on and so on. And you may also change where you may want to live anyway.
Yes.
So you are still taking risk as opposed to when you go to decide, I want to buy this. Now, to buy a property, once you decide you want one, I think it is important to seek advice. First of all, where do I want to live? Wakambas, they like living there in Athi River and they go home like that.
Oh.
No, it's true. It's true. Others will live where the schools they want their children to go.
Yes.
They will live there. Now, once you decide you want to live in that area, my advice is that please get somebody to advise you. What happens is that in some of these areas, they were zoned for certain things by the city council planners. Some areas, you can only build one house. Some areas, you can build a house and servants' quarters. So it's easy to say, I want there, but what is planned for that area may be completely
What advice is that? Because I've seen people demolishing their one houses now to build flats which are more profitable nowadays, but we've had talks of areas that have been designated for one houses, single use.
You have heard about illegal structures. Normally, when you've got a plot in the right zone, you've got to prepare the drawings. Now, you find, for example, if the planning has changed, it has now allowed a bigger building. In other words, if, say, like in town here, some of these old single-story houses
Yes.
are not economical at all. Actually, what they are paying the council is very difficult to justify, with the kind of rent they are getting there.
Yeah.
But the planning authorities allow a development to go even up to 30 floors. So then they will go down and knock whatever is there, and then come up with a drawing to go up.
Makes sense.
So as we talk, let me just assume we are all looking for a property where you want to, to live with your family. Now, in that case, then you need to identify the area where you want to go. You need to identify somebody who is most likely a registered agent. I'm talking about a registered agent because he will have been taken through some kind of training to be able to do simple searches like the search at the land office, look at the plan so that what he shows you is what eventually you are going to buy. I can show you a plan, a plot, but show you something else there,
Yes,
and you are buying something else there.
Different.
You'll be able to do a search at the land office and even at the city council to know exactly who is the owner of that particular property. So that by the time you now start talking of money, first of all, you know there is a property which is there on the ground. Then you know at least the range in which the cost or the value should be.
Do we have anything like exact property in Nairobi? Because we've had cases where people have bought from credible practitioners in the area, but then in the end they've ended up having their houses demolished. Kabisa. I read about a story that several banks, I think like 4 banks, were defrauded by same title, and banks do their due diligence.
That's the corruption you talked about. But indeed, in Nairobi, there are properties with proper titles, where if you do proper due diligence, you indeed can get a property which you can live with your family.
Yes.
Let me say, in most cases, it's not just you. In most cases, you do not have 100% of the money. Chances are that you will still end up with somebody to assist you, whether privately or a mortgage company.
Okay.
Now, that company also does their own due diligence as well. And it is important also, as you search, that you visit those organizations so that you can have an idea of what will be the repayment margin. How much, if I borrow, say, 2 million shillings, how much am I supposed to be paying on a monthly basis? In most cases, you find the company has got a table that you can read. I buy a house of 5 million shillings.
Yes.
I must put down half a million.
This much.
I must borrow the balance for 10 years or 15 years. And the payment per month will be this, so that then you can be able to work up your budget. Because in most cases, you are paying rent where you are already.
The amount of money I would need to buy a piece of land right now, come at the place I used to stay in Embakasi. The landlord told me that they bought that piece of land at 50K. 50K only. But now the price of land has shot up extremely. Is there a chance for us, Sisi, do we have such deals?
It really depends on what you want to do. But my feeling is that if you really want to be an estate agent, one way of doing it is to try to find and work with an existing estate agent, which is basically what I did. When I left the university, I joined an existing agent, which took me through the process of selling properties. First of all, costing them. In other words, if somebody comes and he wants to sell a property, or somebody comes and he wants you to sell his house, how do you advise him? What kind of documents should he be having?
Yes.
What kind of price should you be asking? And so on and so on. And I don't see why, for example, you cannot get that information from already an existing estate agent.
Yes, yes, yes.
I think in construction, if I want to start a construction, I will befriend, say, a quantity surveyor who can be able to prepare the bill of quantities and cost them, so that before I start building, I know it's going to cost this much. I think the same thing can also happen with if you want to start the agency of selling plots and houses and so on. And indeed, we do get people coming to us with the papers, and they say, "Oh, I want you to sell this for me." And when you look at it, really, there's nothing at all.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. There's nothing actually to sell. Or alternatively, he has been a bother to somebody who has just given him something real, but what he's asking, he knows you'll never get it. So you're just simply wasting your time. So if you want to do that, maybe what I can say is those who may have that idea and they want to do something like this, we can always talk after here.
Yes.
Normally, the ladies tend to be the best.
Yes, you mentioned that.
And I'm talking about the young girls, not the older ladies. Yes,
in real
estate,
estate.
yes.
What happened in between? What happens in between the young girls and the other ones?
I think it's a culture, really.
Yes.
LLOYD MASIKA as a company, we have got a deliberate policy to assist those who are training in our field, especially those who are in the university. Not only that, but also take them up when they finish. And also take them into the board if indeed they come to that level.
Yes.
At the university, they tend to be very good, sometimes even better than men.
Yes.
But when they come out, they are all right for some time until they start getting their boyfriends. Then now a problem starts arising. Because
they're not
our
called
work
boyfriends.
is out. It's out of the office.
They're not called boyfriends nowadays.
What are they called?
Brian and Kevo.
What is that?
Those are bad. Those are bad news.
Those are bad news.
Yes.
No, I think because of our culture, the lady who is married into a home is not just married by the husband. You know, the family, the wider family is still there.
Yes.
And they may really never understand seeing somebody here, there, all over the place with all sorts of strange people, and so they start raising issues. Or sometimes, of course, and we try to accommodate this, is that the lady is not really in a position to be able to move in and out of town looking for properties or selling properties because maybe has got a young child or something like that. Otherwise, they are very good.
The people who talk about as in hii mambo ya ushago kama hauna nyumba wewe si mtu. Hauwezi nunua gari kama hauna nyumba. Where do we draw the line in that? Is it about lifestyle? Just live your life. Kama unataka kununua gari ya 5 million na hauna nyumba, wewe nunua gari ama kama nyumba. It depends on your style. Ama ni priorities.
It really depends on where you are coming in the country. Because as I told people, different people have got different cultures. I didn't build or buy a house in the countryside. And mind you, that's also changing.
Yes.
Because if you really want to invest, you may find it's more profitable to invest now in your county headquarters than here in Nairobi.
Okay.
The same demand for houses, the same demand for offices, is the same demand outside there.
Yes.
And yet there, things are much cheaper. The land itself is much cheaper. So if you got some money to put up 3 or 4 flats.
I did the math.
Yes.
Not very long ago. An apartment that you can pay that goes for 40,000 in Nairobi, say in a place like, let me use an example, like Embu, right? To get such an apartment up, the maximum rent you can get is 15,000. But the construction cost for Nairobi is the same as in this other place. So it means whichever math you run away from.
No. The land is not the same. You will find the land in Embu is obviously cheaper. But then again, it also depends on where in Embu. If you go to the slums down there, you'll not get more than 15,000 shillings.
Yes, but you'll not also get people who can rent a house for 40,000 in Embu, the same house that you can rent for the same in Nairobi. Maybe
you are correct, but on the other hand, not correspondingly or proportionately, yes, you still get a good return for what you spend, even in the countryside. You know, let me give you an example. Makueni, where I come from, some people have run in there and put up houses and even office blocks. And whereas you can get, say, some space here in town at about 80 shillings, they are getting 65, 70, just very close to that. But if you look at what they paid for the plot, compared to what somebody in Nairobi will pay, and that's a growing market here, people are kind of moving into the counties. So once you decide what you want to do, you can now go further and get more details in terms of if I live in Embu,
Yes.
which area do I really would like to get some land, and what do I want to build? If it's housing, if it's flats, what size? Because again, I have gone into developments where the 2-bedroom flat is only about 500 square feet, whereas another one, 2-bedroom, is about 800 square feet. So it's not just a 2-bedroom. You've got to look at the thing itself.
Majority of the Kenyan population are people who, you see, when we talk about starting from scratch, from grass to grace, I think 90% wako hapo kwa nyasi, grass. So how would you advise someone at 0%? The wisdom that can be shared in terms of where do you start, how do you go about it?
My experience is that basically it starts with the land. In the land, in the sense that for you to develop or think of developing later on, you must start looking for the land itself. As for some of these guys, boys and girls here,
Yes.
the law is very clear that if you've got children, those children are entitled to whatever you own, all of them, both they are boys or girls.
Yes.
And I think it is important to emphasize that part, because the girls are also entitled to the inheritance if their father had some land. It does not matter whether she's going to get married, but they should. And so are the boys as well. Now, if you get the land, then at least you have sorted out the bottom problem. If you ever want to put up a house, then you don't have to buy the land. And therefore, you can at least do that without having to spend money now to buy the land. As for the encouraging you to invest in real estate, first of all, it will just give you returns. And what I mean by returns is if you got your 5 million shillings and you put that money in the bank, you may get interest of 10%.
Yes.
Now, if you spend the same 5 million shillings and buy a piece of land or buy a house, that house will give you rent. But more important, that house will continue appreciating in value as well. So you find that in the real estate, you are benefiting
Over time.
from appreciation and also from a rental return. So it comes almost double.
So basically, for the people who are watching and they don't have land and they don't have money to start, they can still do music. So, music and any other income generating activity that
Maybe
they can
let me say at this point that this pillar on housing of the government, I totally support it and I encourage it. Why? Because rather than spread laterally on the ground, we are moving upwards. The same piece of land that may be worth, say, 20 million shillings, you will find if you go up, you can provide maybe even 10, 20 times the number of flats that you could have just simply built on the floor itself. Yes. And I think this is going to be a huge benefit.
Okay.
The only thing that I think we need to look at as far as that, when that is concerned,
yes,
is as you develop upwards, then obviously you are creating more population. You are creating more vehicles. They will need maybe wider roads because you are creating more. And I think the planners are looking into that.
Okay.
The other thing is that whatever interest, whatever we are going to transfer to the buyers should be acceptable by the financiers. In other words, I should be able, say, for example, to get a lease on the 10th floor of a flat on the 10th floor, and that should be accepted by the bank who then gives me the money. And the other thing is that, yes, you can put many flats, but there will still be areas which must be common. You know, you've got a gate, you've got a swimming pool, possibly, you've got the staircases, the parking yard, all those need to be maintained. Now, whatever interest you pass on to these people who are buying the individual flats,
yes,
to me, that must be clear on who is going to manage this common area. Otherwise, we have seen cases where, yes, everybody moved, but there's nobody cleaning the staircase. It becomes like do I call
Yes,
it
yes,
a
yes.
city council thing? Obviously, we don't want. So the other thing is there is something called the rent restriction. And those people have a tribunal. Now, if a property, and I'm talking about residential, if you put up a house and that house is let for less than 25,000 shillings, you are stuck because you cannot touch that rent again until it is approved by the tribunal.
So every rent that goes up has to be approved.
Yes, by the tribunal. Now the problem here is the tribunal was created to protect
The consumers.
the tenant.
Yes, tenant.
So it will hardly go up. This is, I think, one of the laws that I think the effect now is the opposite of what was intended. Because what it really means is everybody tries to build above 25,000 shillings. In other words, you find there are a lot of flats, a lot of development coming up, but nobody's building to let his flats for less than 25 because he doesn't want to get into that.
Would that explain what we call the real estate boom, where we have apartments, most houses are empty, so we are talking of an oversupply of houses?
I don't think we got an oversupply of houses, whether they be offices or houses.
Yes.
Let me maybe start with offices. You may find some empty offices, but if you look at it, you'll find the house or the block was built to accommodate tenants taking more than maybe 5,000 square feet or even more. So you find young people who are starting are not able to find accommodation there because the units are much bigger than what they want. Now, with the houses, it depends very much on the rent that you're asking. I mean, if you reduce the rent, obviously there are so many people looking for accommodation in Nairobi, they will take them up. So sometimes that is the problem when you ask for too much.
So we hopefully are going to see a reduction in the rent.
Yes, you reduce the rent, and you definitely get somebody to meet you somewhere.
Okay.
The question is, what
Yes.
happens when there was a lease? If somebody has committed himself, say, to a 6-year lease in a market where instead of going up, it's coming down.
Yes, yes.
Now that we are waiting for,
That's bad
for
news for
maybe
the
the
developer.
courts to decide. But for the people who are starting, my concern has always been
Yes.
they should be able to use monies that they are using to rent houses, to use that to be paying towards something that becomes theirs. And if you need to get something good, within 10, 12 years, you should be able to own that property with the very rent that you are paying somebody else.
I think some of our people may have been lost up at a new house that is 500, you said 500 square feet.
If you go in the market now, you find all sorts of developments. During the time I was in school, things were done according to the British standard of some kind, which specified how strong is the wall, which specified how big is the room. We seem to have abandoned that because you are seeing some very, very small, tiny units in the market today.
I'm happy to learn that there is still hope for the young people. I'm also happy to learn that rents could be coming down soon, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I mean, if this affordable housing comes up, really, in all fairness, they should come down. I mean, if the flat was selling for 80 million shillings and you can get it for 3, then why should it not come down? They should.
Issue of purchasing of property, doing due diligence. A company like, as we speak, there's a story of a Suraya company that people invested from way back in 2013. There's evidence of works that they have done before, but still we have people who complain that they've lost money. Still, how do people protect themselves from that too? Even the credible companies, you've said that when you build for yourself, it will take more time, you'll probably spend more money, but still we have credible companies who have ended up in a situation that is not very favorable to investors.
Well, let me not necessarily talk about Muraya because he's a friend of mine with his wife.
Yes.
But what I would really advise, and I think I mentioned this earlier on,
Yes.
if you do buy anything off the plan, first of all, make sure you understand it, because many people don't. Most of the agencies that we do, we only realize them when the family goes there and we look at the kitchen or whatever else they look at.
You have to see it physically.
Yes, yes, they don't understand them.
Yes.
And many times you can sell a property, but when the wife comes, the kitchen is not just what she had in mind, and that's it. Buying off the plan, to me, is a new idea, and I think one has got to be careful.
Yes.
More so with the person who is selling it to you, in that if he is a registered agent, to be a registered agent, you must have an insurance cover, which means in case something happens and you went to lose money, then at least you have got some claim
Yes, yes,
you
yes,
can make.
yes.
And therefore, before you get into that, then look at the history of that person, because there are organizations which have done it and they are there and you can see them. If indeed one can tell you, I've done A, B, C, D, and they are here, then look at it. And in most cases, you find a situation like that. He is not selling lines, he's selling maybe something you can also see
Yes, yes,
somewhere else where he has done it. I hope the affordable housing will solve the housing problem.
Yes.
They will come up with a cheaper houses, which may force the rentals to go down,
Yes.
and therefore will make it possible now for these people who are coming up to have a decent housing. Will make it possible for them to let some space without committing themselves for a very long time when they don't even know which way things are going. So I hope as we promote the affordable housing, we will also look into the laws, this Landlord and Tenant Act and rent restriction, so that then they don't become another problem as we go on.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm sure it's the wish of everybody to own a house, either
Yes.
here or in the countryside.
Mmesikia wase? Makija zinakaa mtakuwa mnapata 1 bedroom kile na 3,500.
Yes, 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 indeed.
Keep
Yes.
the hope alive.